All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Hey everybody, it is the Mark Thompson Show. Where's Mark Thompson, you might ask? Well, huge power outage at the Mark Thompson household. We're waiting for the power to come back on, but at this point, Albert and I will hold down the fort until Mark's lights come back on and he can hop on the show with us. I think we might have him beaming in via cell phone, Albert.
We do, and I'm sure after the horns come in, we'll let him on and talk about what's happening, and hopefully sometime during that duration, the power does come back on, because we have a big show today.
We do. Power or no, we have Dr. Bill Black, an economist, coming on the show. Great day for it, because apparently the Trump administration is planning to use the IRS as a weapon to go after people on the left. Mo Kelly joins Michael Shure for This Week in Politics today. Going to be a great discussion. Of course, Michael Snyder, the culture blaster, will sweep in, talk about movies and music and sports and art and all the fun things that help us ease into the weekend as well. And of course, it is the No Kings protest weekend, and I hope you have your merch all ready to go, your Peacefully Resist shirts and all of these things, and I know that Mark is already wearing his. So we've decided that if you do end up going to one of the rallies, there are 50 of them across the United States in cities all over the place, and you do wear your Mark merch, take a picture and send it to us, because on Monday we'll be showcasing some of the photos of everyone at the rallies repping the Mark Thompson Show merch. The website is getmarkmerch.com. Of course, Courtney has worked really hard designing these awesome t-shirts and mugs and slogans and designs. And so if you have one and you're wearing it to the No Kings rally, make sure you send us a picture. The email address, the show email address, is themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. And again, here's the email address, themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. And send us your pictures so we can show them on Monday. All right, let's bring in our friend Mark Thompson. Here he comes.
Thank you. Yeah. And I don't even, should I join vertically like this, Albert, or is it supposed to be like this? That's
good. Yeah, do that.
I think the horizontal,
like
the way you have it right now is probably the way to go.
It's better. Okay. Because I don't really know, but, the Mark Thompson estate has been hit by a power outage that has affected nearby estates. Of course, when I say nearby, I live in a very, as you might imagine, special area for people who were once celebrities and are no longer celebrities. And and so it's a protected area, but it does run up against power outages of the sort that we're enduring right now. Now, I will say that as I think about it, Joe Biden is to blame for us not having power, because he must have done something during that 4 years that has degraded the power grid. But I'm optimistic that with Donald Trump and the Trump family involved, Eric Trump, Don Jr., the same way they are able to get some personal gain from pretty much every transaction and public policy strategy moving forward, I'm sure if we can offer them a piece of the grid here where I am, if they could spin off some revenue to Trump Inc., I believe they can privatize this so we won't have any more of these issues. But right now, we are in a power outage because the new Donald Trump power system hasn't been installed yet. And so what can I tell you? It's a bummer. But I'm glad you mentioned No Kings. I'm wearing my Peacefully Resist shirt. I like it. It's simple. It's stating something simply, and I think it's the design, the font choice that Courtney made is quite lovely. And there's more, as you say, at getmarkmerch.com, and there'll be plenty of opportunities to wear it regardless of No King's Day or not. but we really do want to share pictures of your King's Day parades, protests, demonstrations of any sort. So please send them to the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. Thank you, Kim, for mentioning that earlier. I think
Romania Animal Rescue pops in with a 20 and says, looking forward to no kings. So thank you to Romania Animal Rescue.
Yeah. Bravo. They've been such great supporters of the show. Yeah. And I'll just mention, I'll mention it so Kim doesn't have to. Smash the like button. And also, please make sure your subscription to the show is current. I mean, it's a free show, but YouTube does a thing where they churn people out, and just make sure that when you're watching the show that subscription tab is actually engaged and that you hit the notification bell so you'll know whenever we drop a new video. And please share the videos. I had a great conversation with Sarah Kendzior yesterday, had a great conversation with David Katz yesterday. So that was both the legal and sort of the dictatorial creep, if you will, of where we are in America. And that is super shareable. We drop those as videos, and so please share them across your social media. That helps build the footprint of the show. So this isn't my most flattering angle as a former regular on television. I will look at it later, I'm sure, and not be happy.
I almost like it better than the studio, and we get to see where the Coachella Valley coffee is made in the kitchen behind you, which is it's a nice little peek into what happens at the Mark Thompson estate.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've had two through the years, as you might imagine. Kim is my fame and my I'll just state it bluntly, money associated with my former fame is kind of ebbed a bit. We've had to discharge a lot of the staff. Don't have them here, so now we do grind our own coffee, and but there's a certain beauty in the simplicity of it all here now, and we've tried to sort of embrace that.
It's not fake. That's real.
It's looking good. I like it. I feel like I'm in the Mark Thompson Show kitchen with you. This is great.
I am going to show you. I'm going to just take, this is not what we intended. We've got a lot in the show today, and I'm going to dance off so you can actually get into it, because we really do have a lot going on. And wow, it's a serious time in America. And you saw, one of the things I was going to mention, the fact that there has been an exodus at the highest levels of the Pentagon. You're seeing military leaders who will not countenance, who will not be part of these extrajudicial actions that the Trump administration is taking. And I really hope you touch on that, because there have been a couple of them, and they're quite relevant to what's been going on with more of these bombings of boats off the coast of Venezuela. I mean, it's, this is a guy who, I know a lot of independents and even lefties, like way lefties, who felt that Biden was too radical and too open to military influences that affected foreign policy in the past, and somehow that Donald Trump was this peacenik, because he was going, he was quacking, I'm going to end all wars. These wars are bad. And it seemed to me there was nothing in Donald Trump's history that would suggest that as president of the United States, he would in any way have a disposition diplomatically or from a policy standpoint that would be in any way less aggressive than the Biden administration. I saw him as a military flex guy. I mean, look what he did in his first administration when he took out Soleimani, the number 3 guy in Iran, and he just got lucky that Iran didn't bite back. But I find what they're doing, stirring the pot, and just generally the kind of toxic masculinity that's informed American foreign policy. And I mean, look at what's happening at the Pentagon. Look at the changing of the brand, to Department of War. I mean, these are guys who embrace this notion of a heavy American military presence. And so it brings me to Venezuela. When you look at what's happening off the coast of Venezuela and how the Venezuelans are expecting they may be in for a battle. And one of the things you're not told is that there are serious backroom negotiations going on when it comes to a lot of the issues that Donald Trump articulates he worries about coming from Venezuela, specifically narcotics. There is a major, major diplomatic effort going on behind the scenes. But that doesn't get headlines. What does get headlines is going in with American military might. And that's what Trump likes. He likes the headlines. And I think this American military might flex is really the one he's most comfortable with. And so back to these military leaders who aren't cool with this. And so you have resignations at the highest levels of the Pentagon from critical leaders and critical leadership associated with this move off the coast of Venezuela. In fact, Kim, I left quotes in there. You can maybe read some quotes from military experts about that. I think that's a very big deal. And as we slide into No King's Day and we sort of we see what this administration is doing, I'd love for you to talk about that more. And I'm going to kind of get out of your way so you can. I'll hope the power comes on here and we can do the show as planned.
Two quick things before you go, because we were meaning to mention this yesterday and hadn't, but since you brought up Venezuela, I don't know about you, but I was shocked that Trump confirmed a couple of days ago that he authorized CIA action in Venezuela. That's crazy.
He authorized he announced, I've authorized a covert action in Venezuela on the part of the CIA. First of all, it's the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's not a covert action, dude, if you're talking about it. I don't understand how the F you would not see how ridiculous that is. I've authorized a special undercover operation. Venezuela. Don't tell anybody. It's absolute. I mean, if this administration wasn't so destructive and so horrifying, it would be funny for moments like that. Yeah, absurd.
The other thing I wanted to mention is, and I forget your saying, but it has to do with staying on the air in order to make the point, because it does no good if we're gone. And that's kind of when you brought up the military members that are the military brass that are leaving. There's this man, Doug Krugman. He's a military colonel. He says he couldn't swear to follow a commander-in-chief who seems so willing to disregard the Constitution. He's saying, as he steps out the door, that those he leaves behind in the military should question illegal orders. And I was thinking about, I forget the exact saying that you have, but that makes so much sense, about how these are the people that we actually want to stay. Because when they leave, who is left behind? I mean, are we left then with the MAGA people who won't stand up to illegal orders, who when, it's time to push the big red button, they don't question it and they don't stand up and say, nope, not going to do that. So
yeah, I don't remember the saying. I don't remember the saying to which you referred, but that I had. But it's a scary thing when at once you have the pushback that you'd like to see from military leadership of the sort that you mentioned. The pushback that the military leadership that has just resigned is sort of suggesting should exist from rank and file, and yet, as you've sort of implied, it opens vacancies for loyalists who will do whatever the president wants. It's a very scary time in America because it is clear that there are plenty of those people. I mean, the Pam Bondis and Kash Patels of the world and Dan Bonginos. And, even if you look at that RFK Jr., look at how he bends himself into a pretzel to justify. But Pete Hegseth probably is the greatest example. He's like the apex predator of MAGA bullshit because he's there and will do anything and say anything to back up the president. And he'll look the other way on any number of things that could literally qualify as war crimes. And again, the wanton destruction of these boats off the coast of Venezuela, it's a serious thing. We don't know that these are narco traffickers at all. In fact, there is decent reporting, corroborative stories about the fact that some of these people on board these, at least this one vessel, were fishermen. And there's a widow who is quoted as saying he went out and he never came back. So I'm getting to the point that you'd love to see some pushback, but sadly, I think the pushback may be insufficient, and those who've resigned will be replaced by the party loyalists, and when I say party loyalists, I really mean loyal to Trump regime. And there are all the ways that we've now seen that they test to see your loyalty. They test you by vetting your social media, asking you if the last election was legitimate, the one with Joe Biden from 2020, asking you about January 6th. There are all these things that you sort of have to check off on before they'll give you these positions of leadership. So it's a scary time for sure. And I think the military leadership void that's being left by people pulling away, sadly, it will likely be filled by loyalists.
Well, I have to say, I'm impressed with your cell phone presence. You look and sound amazing, but I know you do. It's crazy. Like your voice is resonant, but I know you want to wait until the power comes back on and you can do the professional thing in the studio. But thanks for.
Well, I don't even have any of my notes. That just and the quotes. And I know we have videos. We've really put together a great show for you today. So I'm hoping that I know you'll execute the show so well. But I'm just saying. I want to get out of the way, so I hope you'll get to some of that stuff.
Which one do you use,
I feel
Mark
like
Thompson?
my blathering gets in the way of it. So,
no, it's
but
good.
next time we have an opportunity, I will take you around the great Mark Thompson estate, and you will.
We'd love to see it.
You can luxuriate in it. But as I say, I'll be standing by and hope that the power comes back on and we can get rocking. So, but thank you, Kim. A lot of stuff is loaded into the show, and Kim will make it happen. So, thank you, Albert.
Right.
Thank you, Kim. Thanks, everybody.
Fingers crossed the power comes back on. Bye, Mark Thompson. All right. Do want to talk about a little more in depth one of the things Mark was mentioning about this former Marine colonel. He is a combat veteran of 24 years. He resigned late last month, and he said he did so because of Trump and because of concern for our country's future. He wrote this op-ed, and it's called "I Resign from the Military Because of Trump." It was published in the Washington Post yesterday. He said no commander-in-chief is perfect, but he believes previous presidents took their oaths to the Constitution seriously. He makes a big splash as he walks out the door with this op-ed. He said he no longer believes that Trump takes the Constitution seriously. I'm torn, as mentioned with Mark, between liking that he made this big splash, that he calls attention to the Constitution. If anyone from MAGA land or in Republican land is listening, maybe they're listening to members of the military. Maybe that's the case. Maybe the message hits with someone. But also, my concern, my more pressing concern, is that someone like this, who understands his constitutional duty, who understands that you don't follow illegal orders, who is someone we want in place when the S hits the fan, is now no longer in place. And the concern is, who replaces him? If these are the people that are stepping down because they're so disgusted, then who's coming after them? And that's my worry. I would almost rather have had him believed it silently and stayed in that office, stayed in that place so that he could better protect America. And now he's not there anymore. So I'm kind of torn between which move I would have preferred him to make. Not that it matters, because clearly he's not there anymore. There is another military-related story, though, and this one is about the head of the military Southern Command is stepping down. His name is Admiral Alvin Hosley, and he's leaving less than a year into his tenure as the Pentagon is escalating these attacks against boats in the Caribbean Sea. He is not being so public about his objections to that. But he said to his command's 1,200 military service members and civilians in a statement, keep charging. He apparently, though, is masking real policy tension concerns that he has about what's happening in Venezuela. He said prior to Trump, the Representative Adam Smith of Washington said this. Prior to Trump, he said, "I can't think of a combatant commander who left his or her post early ever." And Smith is the senior Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. So there you see Admiral Halsey. So it's very odd for someone in this position to step down early. The quote is, at a moment when the U.S. forces are building up across the Caribbean and tensions with Venezuela are at a boiling point, the departure of our top military commander in the region sends an alarming signal of instability within the chain of command. So that's how it looks. It's a bad look for him to be stepping down. Meanwhile, in Venezuela, Trump confirms that another boat has been struck. This time, there are survivors. This time, they didn't obliterate the boat. And so perhaps we'll be able to hear from the people aboard as to, were they really drug runners? What was really happening there? I'm interested to hear more about that. Last night, there was a town hall meeting. Stephen A. Smith running the show. There was a man who stood up. He's an air traffic controller. And he talked about having to work as a DoorDash driver to make extra money to pay his daughter's tuition, and that he couldn't stay at the town hall meeting because he had to go to his second job. Stephen A. Smith then takes that moment and has this to say.
Trying to be very respectful to everybody because they deserve it.
Why?
Let me say that, no, because you deserve it. But let me say this. I don't think Washington understands how ticked off we truly are. Think about the conversation that we're having right now. You brought up the single-payer system, emulating Canada. You know, we're looking at a president that just gave $20 billion to Argentina. We're hearing about or witnessing what I consider to be a retribution tour. And even though to some degree I don't blame him because of how people went after him, still it appears to be counterproductive. We're listening to this kind of stuff while a young man walked up to the microphone and said that he had to leave here to go and work on DoorDash to help pay for his daughter's tuition. Meanwhile, everybody up here getting paid. But he ain't. This is this kind of stuff right here. That's how you know, and I'm not accusing any of you directly or personally of feeling this way. I'm just talking about the apparatus that is Washington, the nation's capital. This is why you have so many Americans, excuse my language, so pissed off at Washington, because somehow, some way you get to have these conversations, engage in specific elements of it to talk about what we need to do to get things better. Our debt is $37.8 trillion. Somehow, some way, the taxpayer's been paying this, been throwing money, because we all look at our check, and it's been going to the government. And somehow, some way, you're supposed to be doing something constructive and productive enough to make sure that we don't have that kind of deficit. It isn't happening. A government shutdown is going on right now. A man has to work on DoorDash when he's really an air traffic controller that we applauded. And we're up here talking about how much some money is going to cost. And the only person that don't have a check coming is him. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a break. All right.
And during the middle of this town hall, he gets up, Stephen A. Smith, and he walks off stage. He comes back eventually.
Sayonara, sucker.
Yeah, but he got really worked up and really emotional, and it is. And I don't agree with him on everything, but one of the things I take away from that is that it's not Democrats or liberals or independents, people that look at what's happening in the White House and are frustrated. It's not just people on the left. Looks like people on the right may be getting frustrated as well. And so I take hope. Tom Homan was also at that town hall, spewing the stuff he always spews. And he was asked about whether or not ICE agents should be masked up. And he had this to say.
explain why, when it comes to ICE agents, there's been this whole big deal about concealing their identity? Law enforcement officials throughout this country don't get the license to do that. They have to walk up to you, they have to identify who they are, they have to make sure it's clear. An ICE agent getting to conceal their identity is not a privilege or a situation that other law enforcement officials have. Why should ICE agents have that?
Look, I don't pretend. I don't particularly like the mask either, but name another law enforcement agency that's over 1,000% attacks on them.
Okay,
and
stop.
name another law enforcement agency
Can we
who's
pause? 1,000% attacks? I don't think that number is correct. I don't know where that number is coming from. I've heard him say it before, and I'd like to see more information about. I do realize that violence and that pushback against ICE agents has escalated, but 1,000%? Carry on, Albert.
spouses and children have been doxxed on social media and been attacked and bullied in churches and schools. These men and women put a gun on their hip and wear a Kevlar vest to go on the streets every day, look for the worst of worst, makes this country safer. Them wearing a mask, if that protects them and protects their families, then that has to be done. No one, you know. I remember the days some of these cities, if they weren't wearing a mask during COVID, you got reported to the police and got arrested for it. These men and women are trying to protect themselves and their families. And again, I don't like the mask. I wish there wasn't need for it. But there's not another law enforcement agency dealing with the attacks that ICE is dealing with right now. Look, immigration enforcement, I've been doing this since 1984. It's always been controversial. It's always been emotional. But people need to remember the men and women at ICE, they don't hang their heart on a hook when they go to work. They're mothers and fathers too. They have children too. And they take very, very emotional things home with them every day. You know, I've done this for over 40 years. I stood in back of a trailer with 19 dead people who baked to death. I've talked to 9-year-old little girls that were raped multiple times by the cartels. And these men and women take that home every day. These are heroes and they're patriots, and I'm happy and I'm proud to support them.
But Mr. Holman, respectfully, I get where you're coming from. But one could retort by simply saying, you know, when Obama was in office, he actually, and I said this to you when I interviewed you on my show, Obama deported more people than Trump did the first go round. But we didn't have this going on. So is it possible that the rhetoric of the president and the manner in which he chooses to verbalize his position on this issue may serve to antagonize the situation, and that is what is calling all of this, when you consider the fact that other presidents, like a president, you've acknowledged President Obama deported more people than President Trump before Biden went against Obama and decided to open borders. We didn't have these kind of issues until President Trump's second term. Even in his first term, it wasn't like this. So what level of culpability should the president and his administration have in regards to this?
Well, first of all, I think President Trump was elected to the White House, the #1 issue, enforcing immigration laws and securing the border.
I agree.
We have the most secure border in the history of the nation.
I understand.
Today. And when you have the secure border, less people are dying from fentanyl, less drugs are coming in, less sex trafficking, women and children, less known and suspected terrorists are coming in.
Not debating that.
Cartels are making billions of dollars less. They're going bankrupt. Okay. Having a secure border not only saves lives. When you have, like right now, 96% less people are coming. When 96% less people are coming, how many women aren't being raped by the cartels? How many children aren't dying?
It's the same old stuff. Thank you, Albert. I really appreciate that. So I saw this story. I'll just quickly mention it, that the Hispanic support is dropping from Trump. The reason, because they feel like they've been betrayed, that what Trump and company said was going to happen with the deportation of the big bad criminals isn't happening. Perhaps they got some criminals, but it looks like they're just sweeping up everyone, and that's not as promised. So now we see support among Latinos dropping for Trump. Heading into this midterm election with a shakeup of districting lines across America. We'll see what happens. I am very, very excited to have a real live economist on the show, a professor Really excited to welcome Dr. Bill Black to the Mark Thompson Show, especially on a day where we're learning a little bit more about attempts to weaponize the IRS. Dr. Bill Black, a professor of economics at the University of Missouri. He has been a whistleblower and has written a book. I love the title of your book, with the best way to let's see, the best way to rob a bank is to own one. Love that. Thank you for joining the Mark Thompson Show. We've had you on before, and I'm so glad you've come back.
Thank you. It's great to be back. By the
So-
way, I'm also a criminologist and a law prof.
Excellent. And Mark Thompson would have been here, but I will tell you that his power went out in his house. So he may pop in at any moment. But the first thing I wanted to ask you about is the No Kings demonstration that is happening tomorrow. And I heard that you're involved with that. Can you share a little bit more about it?
Sure. What we've suggested is some friendly amendments, no kings and no robber barons. So we took a look at their very useful guide that they produced. And for example, it has one mention of unions in the entire document. It doesn't mention the robber barons at all. And it never mentions whistleblowers. And I'm also a serial whistleblower.
Yeah.
And we work with the premier expert and supporter of whistleblowers. The Government Accountability Project, Lewis Clark, has run for 40 plus years. So, he's the dean of the world in terms of whistleblowers. So what we're urging is not to wait for midterms, possible midterm success, especially after the hearings in front of the Supreme Court that indicate that it's going to be very difficult for the Democrats to get control of the House of Representatives. Right now, there are legislative bodies all over America. They're called state legislatures. And if only Democrats will hold these hearings, we hope everyone does, but, we're not naive. We could be having 40 different legislative bodies holding hearings. And of course, there are multiple committees in each legislative body. And whistleblowers are the perfect folks to do this, right? They, are what everybody is looking for: courage, right? These are people that have self-selected. They may be insane.
Yeah.
We may be insane, but we certainly have the courage of convictions. We know that our professional life is going to be derailed when we blow the whistle. But in the modern era, they have all the facts, right? They can explain, and people learn not through a bunch of statistics, but by people telling compelling stories.
Right.
Whistleblowers are firsthand observers that can tell that story, but they also have expertise in the field.
Yeah.
So they can explain why this is not just corrupt, unlawful, the conduct that they saw, but also how it will kill you, kill your kids and such, because that ultimately is what corruption does. In addition to everything else, it causes mass loss of life. And they know where the documents are.
Yeah.
And you, in essence, set a trap, because what do we know Trumpites do when they're attacked with the truth? They immediately seek to smear you and lie, right? And claim things. Well, a number of these people that would be doing the smearing are the ones who are trying to bring the phony prosecutions of people. Mm-hmm. And so if we're able to demonstrate, and because we have the documents and they don't get that, we can prove they're lying. We can prove they knew the opposite, and they'll just come right into that trap. And then that can be used in all of these ginned up criminal cases to establish that, for example, senior FBI folks, senior Justice Department officials were lying. And that can be very bad for, trying to defend against malicious prosecution arguments.
So is there some type of a network of whistleblowers, or a network you're trying to establish? And how do you encourage people, knowing what they're giving up on one side, to come forward and be so selfless on the other?
So yes, there is such a network, and it isn't exclusively the Government Accountability Project, but that's the leading institution, not just in America, in the world. And by the way, there are more whistleblowers in the United States than the rest of the world combined, and many more at fairly senior levels. I don't say that in terms of their importance. I say that in terms of they know far more. They know where the key documents are. They had conversations with senior people in which senior people made clear that they were lying and they wanted bad things to be done. So yes, we're working with the Government Accountability Project, and we're trying to get anyone who has connection to any of the state legislatures or the state attorney generals, because the problem whistleblowers often have is non-disclosure agreements. And then, of course, if you go public with what you found, they will try to bankrupt you. An experience I had personally, albeit not with non-disclosure.
Oh, no.
And if a legislative body or a state attorney general, or of course the federal, but it's not going to happen under Trump, subpoena the testimony, that will break through the non-disclosure agreement. And then you'll be able to talk about these events. And that's where folks like you also come in the media and the modern media spaces and such, because this doesn't then have to rely on parties or any of those stuff, right? People love great stories. And there are over 1,000, and that's a figure from 8 weeks ago, whistleblowers who've come forward to GAP. And that was increasing by the hundreds every week. Right. And again, of course, it's a chicken and egg problem. If we show whistleblowers that something good will actually happen, since you're, pretty much tubing much of your professional life, you'll get more whistleblowers. And such. And by the way, you've had both me and my spouse, June Carbone, both of us were federal programs branch attorneys in the Department of Justice. And for example, in our unit, more than 80% of the attorneys have resigned in protest. To give you an idea of the scope of the unwillingness of people to aid these kind of abuses. So yes, we'll have hundreds of people who could tell the stories in every region of the country. You don't have to wait on subpoenas and fancy parties and political party types or government officials. This can be done by people who simply do interviews for a living, in large part, and are good at it, and are good at rapport and telling that story, as opposed to, here's a fact, here's another fact, here's a statistic, here are 12 more statistics.
It seems like, and I know, as you experienced, the brutal retaliation against being a whistleblower, but it seems like we're in an era with this administration where they are cruel and more brutal than other administrations. And I can imagine, for someone sitting on some information, looking at who you're dealing with as far as, the Trump administration and MAGA and their efforts to discredit people, that it would be pretty scary to try to come forward with these folks.
Absolutely. I think the word you're looking for is sadistic. And that is in this whole personality, the dark tetrad. You're quite right. It's people that add that element of sadism. They like to hurt people, but that isn't new, although it may have, as you say, be greater than it's ever been at the American top political levels. By the way, I'm not just talking about this theoretically, or just from the fact that I was a whistleblower. It was doing the whistleblowing that transformed the savings and loan debacle, which was headed for an absolute unmitigated catastrophe the size of the great financial crisis. It was only the whistleblowing that turned it around. And I would say for many whistleblowers, in some sense, we don't have a choice. You just can't live with yourself if you stay silent.
I can imagine the back and forth and the difficult nature of making that decision. Used to be, and I don't know, I think I read recently that the laws protecting whistleblowers are not as robust as they once were, that the protections that we afforded whistleblowers are a lot less now.
The laws in general are still robust and more robust in the United States than elsewhere. But you're quite correct that a bunch of related things on the entities that were supposed to enforce those laws, of course, they have been completely perverted.
Right.
But again, in my era, they were pretty darn perverted in practice because, I was going after the heads of the agency and very senior elected officials. And so there wasn't a whole lot of protection available. And it isn't just that. So I was also, one of the co-founders of Bank Whistleblowers United after the Great Financial Crisis with two wonderful whistleblowers at really senior levels in two of the places most responsible for causing the Great Financial Crisis. Now, both of those people proved correct in their warnings about the terrible things that were going to happen to their banks. And so what they were trying to do was save their banks literally hundreds of millions, in some cases, billions of dollars, right? Yet, and everyone understood they were correct. Neither of those two, even today, is employable in banking.
Wow.
It was, 2008, and we are in late 2025. Even, for example, Wells Fargo, which was going through all those, hey, we've turned a new leaf. We're the new Wells Fargo. The perfect thing, if that was real, would have been to hire one of these two very senior executives who had demonstrated, and there was not even a hint of interest in doing so.
So the people that could save us are the people we treat as pariahs.
Right. You pretty much have to say, as to whatever your career was before, that's over.
Right. And be ready to accept it and walk away.
Yeah, and do other things in life. And for some of us, that was somewhat easier in that I had more alternatives than a number of folks. But whistleblowers also will enrage and cause immense fear in the Trump administration. First, they just don't know how to understand honest people with any courage. It's so foreign to their lifestyle that they don't know how to deal with this. So they do all kinds of stupid things. They try to bribe you, they try to threaten you, and they do it in stupid ways because they don't understand you at all. And second, even in the olden days when there was kind of a media, it took me thousands of hours in dealing with reporters. And you would pretty quickly learn which ones were worth investing some time on and others were just hopeless. But you had to invest immense amounts of time explaining very complicated stuff. It's not so complicated in this one, right? I was dealing with pretty complicated financial, a lot of accounting issues, put people to sleep. That's not this. This is, I was ordered to use the law, which I cherish, to destroy innocent people because the president wanted them destroyed.
Well, let's move toward that because it seems like, Dr. Black, they're blowing the whistle on themselves almost. The story that I saw last night is that Trump's IRS is plotting against the left. This story detailed in the Wall Street Journal, they, according to the Wall Street Journal, admit that they are going to beef up their investigational operation division within the IRS, specifically to target leftist donors. That can't be legal. And this, it's not like a whistleblower came forward to say that. Like, this is just common knowledge.
Okay, so I'll do this, but also my compadre that I know you have on all the time, David K. Johnston.
Oh yeah,
are big friends of and highly respected by June and I. We work with them for decades on this stuff. Is a super expert on this, but it's even more ironic than that because the Republicans famously ginned up 2 phony attacks on Democrats purportedly using the IRS to go after innocent victims. And shamefully, President Clinton joined in on the first one. A later investigation found it was completely made up. The second one, of course, of this supposed targeting of right-wing organizations proved also not to be true. But they are now, the Trump administration, are now openly going after their political opponents. And worse still, simultaneously, we, the savings and loan regulators and our counterparts in banking regulation, produced the greatest conviction of elite white-collar criminals in world history. And one of the critical components of the task forces that were created to make this possible is the IRS had the best auditors who could track fraud in the world. And again, nothing was close. The Trump administration has been gutting the IRS's capability of dealing with tax fraud for the obvious reason that they're trying to allow the robber barons who fund them, and I think pretty clearly are the puppet masters. It's not like Trump actually, is smart and knows how to do things, to make sure that they can steal with impunity. And this goes a number of years back. There have been all the people may remember the Panama Papers scandal, possibly, if they're really in the weeds, the Luxembourg scandal, where you could go and essentially bribe senior government ministers, and that this was done not 10 times, but thousands of times. Yeah. And then there are places like Ireland that are just massive places of tax scam, but a little, less sordid. Because you don't need to bribe people in Ireland.
That's why you base your company there, right?
Yeah. And then you claim the profits are earned in Ireland through a scam accounting method. This is so massive that the Irish central bank actually publishes something that shows how much inflated the entire Republic of Ireland's GDP is by these tax scams. And because if you just look at the statistics, it looks like the Irish are by far the wealthiest Europeans. And it's just the effect of this tax dodge, which also, by the way, makes housing costs in Dublin insane. So young people can't get married and have kids.
So they're using the IRS. They're using Treasury, the Treasury Department. Scott Bessent calling the assassination of Charlie Kirk a domestic 9/11, and says similarly to the way that Treasury was used to track the financial networks of terrorist organizations after September 11th of 2001, he wants to use those same methods to track what he calls domestic terrorists, which are, apparently people who oppose the MAGA folks, to track down them. So they're using Treasury, they're using the IRS as well. And I don't know if it matters that any of this is illegal. I don't know if courts will stop this and what can be done.
Well, courts certainly haven't stopped overlooked it. B, there's nothing being done at the federal level. C, back to whistleblowers and state hearings. They could be doing something about it. But D, a friendly amendment. It's not even so much they're using Treasury, it's that they're using Palantir and places like Black Cube and such, who have far greater technical ability. I mean, these folks literally, in many cases, are ex-Mossad, right? They're very good in intelligence network. One of the key groups, by the way, that is ex-Mossad, they were hired by Hungary's dictator. And why? To smear George Soros, who's not just Hungarian, but Jewish.
Oh, he's on the list. He's on the list of people to go after. They have a target list.
Right. It has nothing to do with Judaism, obviously. It's just about making money and having power. And so Palantir's whole thing is vacuuming up information. That's what Musk was mostly about, vacuuming up information. And then these Treasury and DOD contracts that are, this is the Hooverization, like the vacuum cleaner Hoover of the world. And so, yes, they're using this, but they won't just use it to terrorize their political opponents, right? They'll use it to sell. And they're using it for all kinds of surveillance tactics on anything and everything, even if it's not criminal.
I don't have you for very much longer, and I did want to make sure to talk about tariffs, and I'd like to read you a few headlines if I could, and you can kind of pick and choose your tariff comments accordingly. The first one is, of course, that Trump is now saying he might actually attend the Supreme Court hearings on a case challenging his tariffs, which I don't think that's ever been done before. But I saw a series of smaller articles, headlines. Small businesses are being crushed by Trump's tariffs. Economists say it's a warning for the economy. California restaurant owner says tariffs and inflation leave him barely breaking even. Also, Kansas, Missouri farmers went big for Trump. His tariffs are gutting them. Tariffs don't look like a good thing for America. And I don't know what's going to become of this. And you have a particular expertise here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the architect of all this, the only economist that thinks this is a good idea, was actually a UC Irvine professor when I was there getting my doctorate in criminology. And he is a moron, right? Oh. He's the only person in the world that believes in his particular view, and he can't defend himself with anything. Second, our tariffs, initial tariffs, are already above the Depression era ones, the infamous Smoot-Hawley tariffs that led to calamity. And what people may not understand is, the Smoot-Hawley was like this, but it triggered a tariff war that went like this out of the picture. And we're seeing those dynamics as Trump blunders. This is his magic bean solution. And of course, like any magic bean solution, it fails. So what if it fails? Well, then you threaten bigger tariffs and impose other tariffs, except for Argentina, where we bail them out and they sell the soybean and take the soybean markets away from U.S. farmers.
There's something so hinky about that. Like there's something we don't understand that is at play there. I'm sure of it.
Well, the thing that to add is my other area of expertise, right? Elite corruption and fraud. Tariffs throughout history are associated with corruption. Why were the initial effects of tariffs somewhat more muted than some economists were predicting? Because of fraud. You just changed the designation of good, and nobody was enforcing under the Trump administration. But now they'll, selectively enforce it on whichever country is not giving enough money to Trump's son-in-law to, type of thing through the wealth funds. So you have to always feature corruption in as the major point. And again, It's not unique to the United States. It's all through history. It's a very well-known thing. But Trump, again, is going to supercharge this. And this is your openness point. It's telling you two things. One, we've got to the stage where we're confident that nobody can do anything to us. Two, we're advertising. Come to me. Give our families things of massive value.
Yeah.
And life will be better. And three, we're competing. We're ratcheting up the price. Early folks come, get a better deal. Come later, you're going to have to pay us more. So that's why Trump, we usually talk about how you try to hide your frauds behind seemingly legitimate entities. Trump has now reached the stage where he believes he can be engage in fraud and corruption with absolute impunity.
In the light of day.
And yes, well, and again, that therefore make it a benefit. Make it your free advertising. So every conference he holds is a free ad saying, come and bribe me.
I didn't know something that you just said at the beginning, which is that tariffs are associated with corruption and fraud historically.
All through history. Because you're always trying to buy your way out of the tariff and get a bigger tariff imposed on your competitors or your political rivals.
No wonder Trump is behind tariffs and has been for so many years, right? It makes perfect sense now.
Tariffs been very, very good to me.
Wow. So how does this shake out? If you say this is fraud in the light of day, is it just allowed to go unchecked?
Well, again, how long has it been since the election?
Yeah.
We have state legislatures who have majorities that can hold these hearings and bring the whistleblowers in at any moment. As I count it, we're getting, near 9 months after the inauguration. I know of no such hearings. I know of nothing in the, big movements in the United States calling for the whistleblowers' testimony in front of these state legislatures and state attorney generals, and having folks like you then cherry pick the absolute best stories and blast them out, right?
Yep.
It's folks like you who know how to reach audiences. Does the Democratic leadership know?
They need a little help, a little extra help.
Yeah. Is funny.
Dr. Bill Black, I could talk to you all day. I feel like with every sentence, I learned something new. So thank you for joining us. Please come back to the Mark Thompson Show, will you?
We would be delighted.
Excellent. I'm so happy to hear it. We'll have you back on very soon. Dr. Bill Black, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Take care, everyone.
Bye. So excited again.
The Mark Thompson Show.
That I get to hang out with Michael Shure and Mo Kelly because the power at the Thompson estate is out. And so this is what happens. Sometimes I guess get really lucky. And it is the inaugural event of Mo Kelly being on the Friday show for This Week in Politics. Hi, Albert.
Hello. It's just Mo right now. I think Michael will just join after.
Michael will join after. We'll pop
add him
in
to the fold when he joins.
All right, we can always start, and then as people come in, we'll just they'll join in. But I do want to introduce Mo Kelly. You may have seen him the other day on the Mark Thompson Show. We had him in. He'll be doing some fill-in for Mark Thompson. You may know him from. I know it's exciting. We're all really excited about it. You may know him from radio in Southern California. He's been on national shows, and he has a huge footprint. He is amazing, and I'm so excited to welcome Mo Kelly to the Mark Thompson Show.
Kim, thank you so much for having me today. It's great to talk to
Hi.
you. I'm sorry the power is out with Mark, but it's okay. I'd rather talk to you. No disrespect to Mark.
Well, I'm pretty excited about it as well. I want to roll a video for you. First thing,
Sure.
had not done this yet, and I don't know why I'm so shocked, but it's so the MAGA people always talk about recently how the left is being so divisive, right? How it's the left that is skewering this country down the middle. And here comes Caroline Leavitt, the White House press person, yesterday. Here's what she has to say about Democrats.
Proved that the Democrat Party's main constituency are made up of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals. That is who the Democrat Party is catering to, not the Trump administration and not the White House and not the Republican Party, who is standing up for law-abiding Americans, not just across the country, but around the world.
Okay, wait a minute. So she just told the country and the world that Republicans are the law-abiding citizens and the Democrats are the terrorists and the illegal undocumented immigrants and the bad people they're trying to root out. That's the message they want to send to half the country, that we're the unlawful, we're the others, we're the wrong.
The content of the message is very important. We shouldn't just gloss over it, but also the context, the timing. We're talking about a time in which we're supposedly of the mindset to bring down the rhetoric. Not that we're not going to demonize or otherize the people who may be politically opposite of us, because we want to move away from this place of political violence. The context is very key, because they are openly advocating. When you see someone who is supposedly a terrorist or someone who is not a law-abiding citizen, you've opened the door for violence against that group of people. And I'm a big student of history, and this was done during the Civil Rights Movement, where King was cast as this communist, anti-American, because he was against, among other things, the Vietnam War. And you saw how the protests against not only the protests against King turned into violence against King and his supporters. The message is not new, but given what we're going through in this country at this time, it's even more disturbing.
It's not a message of come to join us, we're accepting, we're welcoming, which is a message that I've heard Democrats should have their arms open, should be, even if you had these MAGA thoughts, should be, we're not going to change the country unless somehow we're able to convince people or show them the facts or show them the truth. It's still this division, and they don't even want now anyone to see their side. They just want to say, you're a criminal, you're the bad guy.
Well, we know that Donald Trump is the president of the United Red States of America. He's not interested in bringing the country together, to your point, and he's not interested in possibly toning down the rhetoric. He's not interested in any type of negotiation or compromise as it comes to the government being reopened. And the worst part of this is they're not even obligated to make an attempt. They're not even being held to any standard or expectation that they should. And that's the worst part for me, is because in like your last guest, you made the point that they're doing this all out in the open, with impunity. They are able to, because there are no consequences to anything they do. Now, when I say to the Republicans' credit, I mean that there was forethought and planning, not that I endorse this. There was forethought and planning as far as making sure that there would not be any backstops. There would not be any obstacles or opposition from the inspectors general being removed, to making sure that there were just loyalists in place, making sure that the generals who might have had a shred of decency or may have resisted an unlawful order were pushed out. So there was Project 2025, but there was also planning to make sure that there will be no pushback against Project 2025. And here is where we are. And now, and I don't want to take this away from you, but we have the No Kings protest this weekend. And let me just say, and it's not going to be popular, especially on the show. I'm not for those protests for a number of reasons. One, I think it wastes social capital that you'll need later on. If you're trying to bring this united front to show the world that we're opposed to Donald Trump, it is much better to do that on election day. We missed our moment in 2024. And I don't know how many more times that you can summon people out to come out to hold their signs to accomplish nothing tangible or specific. Yes. Will you raise money for candidates? Sure. Will you help maybe Mamdani in New York and maybe the Proposition 50 in California? Sure. But everywhere else in between, there's no real election on the horizon. And so this goes to the point as far as what Fox News has done effectively and Democrats have not, as far as the unified messaging and the consistency of messaging.
I'm going to bring in Michael Shure, who's popped in to talk about politics. And Michael Shure, welcome to the show. Here he is. Hi.
Good to be here.
You got a haircut. You're looking good.
I did. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a haircut, have a Band-Aid across the nose from
You do.
which we'll lie about and say was hockey, but
So I'm not sure if you heard Mo Kelly just talk about the No Kings protest and that maybe that it's not necessarily the best idea and that we should conserve our political capital for election day. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it is. I see the merits to that argument. I also see the merits to the other side, which isn't really decisive on my part. But I do think that there is, if you're getting criticized for sitting on your hands, then you get off your hands a little bit and you're criticized again. It's like, damned if we do, damned if we don't. But I also understand the sort of savior powder part of this. But there isn't really, and I think Mo was alluding to this, there isn't really like an inflection point that's coming up anytime soon, not certainly electorally until next year. So to remain active when people are saying you're not doing enough seems like that is the antidote to people saying you're being too inactive. So to that end, I think that it's something that a lot of people who want to do something, who feel powerless, have the desire to do. So I think if you look at movements, or if you look at protests in the past, there is a point where they get muted, and there's a point where people tune out. But I also think it's essential to the people who do that they keep doing it. And so it's a difficult place to be.
Yeah, you have people who are watching as the Constitution is trampled, as the laws of this country are, broken right and left with no accountability. And so what recourse do the people have? What are people supposed to do? How are they supposed to rise up? Isn't this part of what Americans do?
Right. Also, you want to try and build it, right? And the way to build it is to do it and to get more people involved. So you ramp up essentially to you start with a bus boycott, and then you get the whole country involved, and then you get a march on Washington. It's not obviously as simplistic as that, but you have to keep going. And I think that's what part of this No Kings thing is. I mean, the idle hands are really difficult to have.
Mo?
I'm glad Mr. Shure brought up the Montgomery bus boycott and the long view of the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement was successful not only because it made people aware and it also gave voice to the voiceless, but there was a specific plan and strategy. And that strategy was always moving towards the passage of the Civil Rights Act, which was eventually passed in 1964, and the Voting Rights Act, which is now back in the news, which was originally passed in 1965. My reticence to fully support the No Kings movement is there is no action item. And when going back to the Montgomery bus boycott, you had one voice, you had one message. This is largely a leaderless movement, and you will have people espousing all sorts of different messages over the course of the day, which will be used, misused, and abused in media. We're talking about Fox News and how they demonize people on the left. And when you have a leaderless movement like this, it seems like there's a lot of disarray as opposed to focused energy. My concern is when you have a leaderless movement, you allow someone else to hijack that message.
No, it's true. I interviewed the late Julian Bond and John Lewis, I think, on the same subject when Black Lives Matter was happening. And the question was, A, who are our leaders now? And can a movement work without clear leadership or without clear focus, right? I mean, there's something nebulous about, there was something nebulous about Black Lives Matter, until George Floyd came along. And then it was about, about the police in a more focused way because there was a murder shown on camera. But you also have to wait for the right times. And to talk about the bus boycott again, I mean, that Claudette Colvin was a young woman who was going to be the first Rosa Parks. But that movement was so focused, like Mo said, on desegregation and then on voting, but in the immediacy on desegregation in the South and getting rid of Jim Crow laws and all of that they wanted to wait for the right person. And then the seamstress Rosa Parks, who they all knew was the right person to be part of that movement because they didn't want to lose their message. And that's what No Kings and that's what some of these other movements have. The risk of doing is because they are leaderless, because there isn't a specific focus. We want, it's like the gay rights movement. Once gay marriage happened, right, it sort of became a little tattered. And then, a lot of other people glommed onto that. A lot of other groups glommed onto that movement. So these things evolve. And I get why No Kings is as nebulous as it gets. But by the same token, people have to direct their passion somewhere.
Yeah. Let's move to unless you had anything else you wanted to say, Mo Kelly, on that.
No, other than just be mindful of the moment because there's going to be another No Kings protest or similarly themed protest, and we should be intentional next time to make sure that there is an action item. You just don't boycott Target. You boycott Target to make sure that there is a financial sort of a penalty consequence. And if we're not talking in terms of the actual consequence or the action item, then just further organization, as I've seen in the chat, is not going to move the meter all that much.
We'll move now to John Bolton, the retribution tour in full effect, and former Trump advisor John Bolton indicted. He is pleading not guilty to sharing classified information. Oh, the irony when you picture all of the documents stacked up at Mar-a-Lago's bathroom and on the stage of the ballroom. And here's John Bolton, who took some notes in a diary, emailed it to himself, and here we have now multiple charges on John Bolton for allegedly sharing classified information. It's another example, it seems to me, of the Trump retribution tour boldly stated in an accidental message that Trump meant to keep private in a direct message, but published on Truth Social, that to Pam Bondi that it's time to go after these people. And here you have this happening. Michael Shure, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, this was forecast. This was highlighted at rallies around the country during the 2024 election. It's the retribution tour. We're going to go after these people. And what did he do? Recently, his Justice Department indicted Tish James in New York, indicted James Comey. Now there's John Bolton. Yesterday, in his press conference in front of the director of the FBI and the Attorney General, two departments under the Trump administration, he started making a list of other people that he wanted to go after, from Adam Schiff to Lisa, whose last name he didn't know, but it turned out it was Lisa Monaco, to one other, to Jack Smith. I mean, this is a president who is ruling his Justice Department. The Justice Department is supposed to be an independent agency insofar as the work they do is in the pursuit of justice. And what are they doing? They're behaving at the president's whim, and they were smiling along there yesterday. The notion too, the hypocrisy of, when I had that we could go into somebody's house, like we went into John Bolton's house and we took things out of his home. Oh, it's fine to do that because he had these documents. Well, these same people were saying it was not fine to go into Mar-a-Lago just a couple of, maybe a year and a half ago. That's all they were talking about. How can you go into Mar-a-Lago? How can you go into Mar-a-Lago? Well, if we have to go to John Bolton's house because he changed his tune on us, then we're going to do that. And then, of course, Bolton knew this was coming. Bolton was supportive of the president's attack on Iran, and he was trying to curry new favor with this administration, but it was too little too late in Trump world.
The attacks on perceived enemies of Trump are getting a little boost by the director of the housing authority, the exact title escapes me, who's now digging into mortgages of enemies of Trump. And now we understand that the IRS is going to be used to go after people that are leftist. And Scott Bessent says the Treasury Department will be used as well, weaponizing all these federal departments on the ride of this retribution tour, Mo Kelly.
This is what he campaigned on, to Michael Shure's point. This is not anything that should have been unforeseen. Maybe we as those who were not Trump supporters underestimated how quickly that he would move to this place, or how bold he would be in these actions, but should not be unforeseen. Now, we do know that going forward, this is not about actual convictions. James Comey's not going to get convicted. Tish James is not going to be convicted. Maybe there's a little more debate to be had about John Bolton. We'll see. I'm not so sure there is. But this is about the appearance of impropriety. So Donald Trump can say to other people like, see, I told you that they were dirty, that they were corrupt. And then it also gives him more freedom, if you will, to go after other people like a Jack Smith and just have the appearance of impropriety. But this is going to get far worse before it gets better. There are going to be a number of people on his enemies list who will go through the same process, likely will also be indicted, but won't be convicted.
And what's happening here too is there's so much going on with this IRS stuff, right? He's really trying to emasculate the legal teams and the lawyers at the IRS. And who are the lawyers? They're the ones that follow the law. They're the ones that say, oh, you know, who you can go after, who you can't, and why. I mean, look, you're talking about George Soros as one of the people he wants to look at, obviously, right, because he holds him up as a boogeyman. The sophisticated and complicated tax filings of someone with the wealth of George Soros, you're going to find something that raises a question mark. It's very, very easy target. Even if there was nothing nefarious, there could be that he, didn't pay taxes on $22,000, that he donated to this, or who knows. You're going to find one little thing most likely, because there are reams and reams of filings for someone with that kind of wealth who has all these organizations. The other thing, this comes on the heels of saying that they're not going to do as many audits and shrinking the team at the IRS. So he's doing favors for his cronies, and he's going after his enemies, which is, manipulating the government and politicizing tax collection. And it's more of an ugly thing. Like Mo said, it's not going to go away anytime soon.
At first, I thought this whole retribution tour thing was, it's just him being angry and going after people, and that maybe it's a waste of resources, but he's an angry old guy and he's going to go do this. But then I thought maybe there is a point to it. Perhaps that it shows anyone who would cross him, as we mentioned in the last segment about whistleblowers, anyone who comes out against him, look what happens. I'm coming for you. And so maybe there is a rhyme to his reason on this.
I think part of it is to work as a deterrent, that if you do speak out, you will be targeted. There will be consequences for you. And it doesn't have to mean the consequences have to stick. For an average person like you and me, in the sense of, if we were under that sort of scrutiny, not only would we not have most likely the $1 million lawyers behind us, there's going to be a financial consequence to fight such spurless charges. And at the end of the day, it may not be enough, because he has the full weight of the federal government behind him. Right. This is going to deter corporations. And we've seen how places like ABC have bent the knee and gave $15 million because they didn't want the force of the federal government to come down on them. Now, they did an about face with Jimmy Kimmel, thank goodness, but you understand some of the calculations that businesses and private individuals have to make if they are going to oppose this Trump administration.
Shutdown, day 17, and we're not getting any movement from the federal government or from the legislature on voting to end this shutdown. We know that some federal workers are being paid, but we don't know exactly how that's happening. And no movement again. The Senate failing yesterday to pass a temporary spending measure to reopen things. Mike Johnson has gone on record as saying this may well be the longest shutdown in history. How does this play out, Michael Shure?
It plays out again. I'm kind of a curmudgeon about these shutdowns. I don't think they really matter in terms of electoral politics, and I don't know anyone who goes to the polls in any November who says that the shutdown a year and a half ago is what's motivating my vote today. It just doesn't really happen. But if the Democrats are able to sustain a narrative that whether or not they're blamed for the shutdown, we would not acquiesce to any kind of agreement that would in any way imperil healthcare in this country, and they were able to present themselves as the custodians of healthcare in America, then I think that there's a way to make that to their advantage. I don't think, I think people sort of tune out all the manipulation that Trump and his friends on Capitol Hill do as just part of a bunch of white noise right now. But if the Democrats are able to hold fast and able to get what they want and tire the Republicans out, then I think that it could work to their favor. But again, in increments, not in waves.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Mo Kelly?
Yeah, I can't see this being determinative, the shutdown being determinative of anything, for the reasons that Michael had highlighted. And also, I don't think people really drill down in the details of who is responsible for what, the specifics of what is being argued or debated. The people who are going to blame the Democrats would have blamed the Democrats if there were 0 Democrats as senators. I mean, that's a part of the messaging. So I don't know if you're gaining or losing anything. And also, this is a part of the means to an end for the Trump administration. They wanted the shutdown. It would make it more easier to fire federal employees, which was the goal all along, going back to Doge. So the Republicans are getting what they want out of this shutdown. And I said last time I was on the show, the media cycle, it turns over. It used to be 24 hours, but now I say it's maybe 12 hours where there'll be something else. And what that else is going to be, I don't know. It could be Jeffrey Epstein in 2 weeks. It could be something completely different. It could be a Donald Trump health challenge. But the point is, they won't be talking about the shutdown 2 weeks after the government reopens, whenever that time should be.
Let's move to Mike Johnson and his lack of speed in swearing in Representative Grijalva from Arizona. You mentioned the Epstein files, or Epstein, what we could be talking about in 2 weeks. If she is sworn in, then there's enough votes that the files may be released, or whatever they have may be released, or the conversation resurfaces. Michael Shure, I understand that this is unprecedented behavior, I think, and you probably have a good handle on the history. Has there ever been a moment where the swearing in of an elected official has been delayed like this?
Yeah, not like this. I mean, all the time I've covered the Hill and whatnot. I don't recall anything like this. I know there have been manipulations on different votes about when it would happen, and they fall back on, we're gonna wait for their family to be able to get to Washington. Well, the family seeing the swearing in is not as important as whatever the pending legislation is. Right. But it is very clear what's going on, and even the Attorney General of Arizona now, putting together a lawsuit over this, and you even see members such as Kevin Kiley of California. A lot of what happens with the dangers of these redistricting is that a lot of these Republicans and some Democrats who are going to be districted out because of all this, between the censuses redistricting that's happening, which people in California are looking at in November as well, that you're going to have a lot of people who are lame ducks, essentially. And when you have lame ducks, they go against their own party. So you have Kevin Kiley, a representative from California, who will most certainly be out of a job once this redistricting happens. He's free to say, I think we should swear her in. This is ridiculous. And the more that there is of that, the more difficult it's going to be. The eyes of the country are not watching this. This is just one element of what's going on. The people that are, like geeks like us, we do watch it. And I think it spreads a little bit. So you see how Trump is manipulating the Epstein story by having Johnson not swear her in. Eventually, Congress is going to come back in and they're going to run out of excuses. Their hope is that some of the Republicans who went with the Democrats on this will somehow soften in the interim. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I think that if it does, there's going to be a trade-off with some of these lame duck Republicans who are angry about things.
And one thing is true is that the issue of the Epstein files and Trump's connection to Epstein isn't going away. Mo?
it may not be going away, but I think this is more about the personal politics of Mike Johnson, in that he has to know that he's not going to be Speaker of the House come 2026. Either the Democrats will be in control, or I believe that he will have lost his own conference and conference support. So if anything, he's playing to the proverbial audience of one with Donald Trump, and he's delaying, denying, trying to deflect whatever to keep Epstein news from coming front and center. He probably knows deep down that he can't do it indefinitely, but he'll do it as long as he can. Why? And this goes to a larger point that I usually make. There are no consequences. There were no consequences to Mitch McConnell stealing a SCOTUS seat. There are no consequences to anything which happens on Capitol Hill, inclusive of delaying swearing in an elected member of Congress, which tips the balance as far as the Epstein files being released. So Mike Johnson's going to do only which benefits him personally and politically in this moment. And what personally and politically benefits him is making sure that he provides enough cover for one person, Donald Trump.
The segment is This Week in Politics, and I feel like as we wrap up, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the argument or the thought that Donald Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize because of the hostage deal that happened with Israel and Gaza. And now we know that there is more movement with Ukraine, with Vladimir Zelensky coming to the White House, some proposed trade for Ukrainian drones and long-range Tomahawk missiles. There's a private meeting with President Putin of Russia on the horizon as well. And of course, Trump says he's brought an end to 7 wars. What do you think about this whole Nobel Prize and whether Trump is deserving of that? Anything related to this that you want to talk about, Michael Shure?
People who campaign for the Nobel Prize don't usually get it. There are people that support you for it who are looked at, and when you look at the economics prize and the science prizes and the committees that adjudicate who gets those, it's, there is some kind of recommendation process. But all the research I've done in this is the people who campaign for the Peace Prize don't generally get it. I think that it's hard. It will be hard for the Nobel Committee to say that a president who keeps giving money to Israel and their defenses who are attacking Gaza in the way that they did is going to be the Peace Prize winner. And how that peace endures and whether the ceasefire stays will determine that. Same with Ukraine. Look, the president is doing terribly at home, and he's having a couple of wins on the road. And those wins on the road are wins for everybody if it stops bloodshed, but they're also quite late, and they're late even on his timetable, who said that he was going to end these wars in minutes when he got to Washington. Yeah. Look, if it means that there's that the fighting stops all over the world, I don't care if he gets the Peace Prize. I think it's silly. I think it was silly that Obama got it, but for different reasons. But I don't care if it stops the wars.
You're all right.
Yeah.
Mo, your thoughts?
Michael hit upon something that I did want to talk about, whereas there are 2 distinct groups in this discussion. There's the group that is rooting for actual peace around the world, and there are those who are just rooting for someone to get a peace prize. It's not realistic. It's not even logical to think that someone should get a peace prize for what they might have done for a ceasefire in Israel, Gaza, yet simultaneous to fomenting violence and suppressing free speech right here at home. To Michael's point, he's enduring a lot of pushback and a lot of criticism and a lot of issues here at home, but also he's dealing with an international community, by and large, knows that he's not to be trusted. We can talk about the Venezuelan boats and how he is indiscriminately murdering all these people under the pretext of stopping the influx of drugs into this country. It is not a peaceful person, and whether he gets the Nobel Peace Prize or not is of zero consequence to me. What is important is to me that he's made this world a much more dangerous place, regardless of when Russia and Ukraine should bring their war to an end.
Great way to end the segment. And usually, Mo, we end it with Michael Shure's 48 seconds of sports. Anything you want to offer, Mr. Shure?
Yes.
Well, I mean, Mo can get in. Yeah, get on the sports wagon.
Bring it.
Yeah.
Go Dodgers. Repeat World Series champion. That's all I got to say.
Well, they're a minute away from doing that, it seems. And hockey season started, and two old quarterbacks battled last night, and Joe Flacco won, and that was pretty cool. So I guess that's what we've got in sports this week. It's there,
All right.
and the 49ers get George Kittle back. So there's that, right, Albert?
Albert's coming in. Albert would dispute your Go Dodgers statement because he's a big Giants guy.
Yeah, respectfully. The Dodgers are very good, but Giants fan. It was cool to see the old guys play quarterback last night. Happy hockey is back, and finally, I've had Kittle on my fantasy team. I've been waiting since week 1. So
all right, well there you go, Albert. Good luck.
Thank you, guys. And thank you for this inaugural edition with Mo Kelly, Michael Shure. Always lovely to see you. You guys are awesome. Have a great weekend.
All right.
Bye, guys. Thanks for being here. Great segment, and love the addition of Mo Kelly.
The Mark Thompson Show.
No Friday on the Mark Thompson Show would be complete without a little check-in on Florida. It is time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
Want to see, Albert? A naked Florida man has been released from jail days before he tried to break into a Pinellas Park home with an axe. He was arrested, this man, for a string of home burglaries and vandalism. Homeowners' surveillance capturing this man trying to get inside, grabbing an axe at one point. The couple in the home said they woke up to a nightmare. They didn't even know what happened or what happened exactly, until they checked their home security cameras the next day. They say what they saw was X-rated, because you can see he's naked nudie there, and terrifying. A naked intruder roaming their property, arming himself with an axe, pleasuring himself on their sliding glass door. Who has to clean that? And trying to get inside, all while they slept just inches away. The homeowner says the ordeal began at his front door at about 10 p.m. The doorbell rang, the motion light was on. He said he answered the door, and the guy's standing there naked. So he calls the police as this guy starts tearing things up outside. There was apparently a pot on the seat of the truck, and I guess some damage was done to vehicles as well. The police come out, they bring the dog, they bring the helicopter. The man disappeared, but on the surveillance video camera, they find all kinds of interesting things to see. So this creepy guy in the sliding glass door,
yeah, first of all, these homeowners got to clean their dining table. I know my place is probably not the best in shape, but I have the dog just looking at this naked man with the axe. That's very funny. The dog's confused. Everyone's confused. I do have his booking photo up here too.
It looks like eventually he was arrested. I'm gonna give him a 6. What do you think?
He's just not I can't unimagine him being naked. So he's probably got to be like at a 2 or 1. I don't want to see it. So I
don't want to see it either. I don't think anybody wants to see it. All right, next story. Also involving nudity. A naked Florida woman accused of battery punches a firefighter trying to get her to cover up. Oh, ma'am, really? You got to just put some clothes on over it.
Oh, girl, baby girl, don't even play.
A lot of nudity in Florida going on. This naked Florida woman accused of punching a female firefighter who told her to cover up. Leilani is her name. She was arrested and charged with battery by strangulation. Battery on a firefighter, resisting with violence, and resisting without violence as well, with or without. Firefighter not seriously injured, but this battery complaint ended with this naked Florida lady. Is she not? They put a shirt on her for the picture. She looks like kind of a sad sack. I'm going to give her also a 6, I think. What do you think, Albert?
I go pretty high. I mean, if I closed my eyes and I wasn't as aware of what's going on in this story. It feels like it's a naughty video that you can see on the internet, Kim. Like there was
Oh my.
strangulation, someone naked, and yeah. So, but she'll get like a 7 from me.
I guess a 7. All right. Well, Leilani was naked when this firefighter from Polk County tried to put something over her to cover her up. And this woman allegedly punched the firefighter right in the chest. Ouch. The firefighter not hurt. Sullivan arrested and now faces a slew of battery charges. It was also reported that this woman, Leilani, was heavily intoxicated.
Be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
I feel like that's a drunken rampage.
You know, some people are happy drunks and some people not so much. Leilani maybe needs to lay off.
I feel like we all have had our little nudie drunk phase, like where you're take your shirt off guy.
Wait,
We all know those take your shirt off guy.
Speak for yourself, Albert. I don't know.
I was a take off my shirt off guy.
Were you? Oh, that trip to Florida. Lastly, authorities find, I want to explore that more. Authorities find $14.7 million, that's very specific, in cocaine hidden in a truck on Florida's turnpike. I don't know how much cocaine that is. I mean, is that like a full, like loaded bed of cocaine?
You don't have to wonder. There is a photo, Kim. And
please. Right, I want to see how much that is.
This much. This is 14.7 million. Yes.
It's hard to conceal that much.
The people also look very short. I don't know if it's the depth of the photo or if the cocaine is like packed pretty high, but they all look kind of short in this photo.
You
that's
can
a lot.
See underneath the table that their feet, you can't see their feet, so they're standing far back, which I think is why they look smaller. But yeah, they definitely are dwarfed in comparison to the stacks of cocaine that were pulled out of this truck. The truck intercepted traveling to South Florida from Mexico during a traffic stop on the Florida Turnpike. The DEA, West Palm Beach office, alerted the Florida Highway Patrol to intelligence regarding a semi-truck, which you would need to haul this much coke, suspected of transporting narcotics from the Mexican-Texas border into South Florida. And they don't need any more cocaine in Florida. They have enough drugs going on.
They have enough of everything going on there, Ken.
So the DEA, the Florida Highway Patrol, they stopped this vehicle, and during the inspection, hard not to see it, troopers discovered a concealed trap door containing multiple duffel bags filled with cocaine. Oh my. The suspects were reportedly detained, taken into federal custody.
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
One of them was previously deported from the United States. Their names not immediately released. They say the vehicle was carrying about 173 kilograms of cocaine with an estimated street value of $14.7 million. There you go.
You think they have an expert specifically in Florida just who calculates all the drug stuff?
Gonna weigh it, how much it's worth, how much could we sell it for? God. Yeah. And into the evidence locker it goes, I guess. That's a lot of coke. So it is time for us to pick a favorite. Will it be the naked Florida man released from jail days before trying to break into a home with an axe and leaving a little something special on the sliding glass door? A naked Florida woman accused of battery punching this firefighter in the chest for just trying to get her to cover up? Or will it be the boatloads of cocaine, $14.7 million worth, hidden in a truck on Florida's turnpike? I ask you, Albert.
It's a lot of nudity this week. Actually, very hard for me to find crazy stories in Florida. I feel like they're pretty tame this time of year. I don't know what's going on or if it's in the water over there, but I do like I think I do like the first story. It's anytime a nude guy with an axe. I feel like that's a fun little Mad Libs little combination there.
It's really hard to outdo your story from last week with the Grady Judd discussing the fellow with the thermos. That's going to be the take the cake of Florida stories for all time. But I'm going to go with the cocaine story this week because of the picture with all of that cocaine. I mean, come on.
I mean, I think that podium's a little too high for this gentleman in the navy suit. But I think that's adding to like the I mean it's in level with how much cocaine there is. So
the visual on
that's a lot of money.
That takes the cake for me. What's the poll look like?
No poll this week. I'm doing a lot.
Yeah, you really are doing a lot. That's true.
People like there's a bunch of naked people. There's people wanting to. They like the naked man in the first story also. Cocaine truck.
Naked man. Mm-hmm. All right, we get it. Let it snow, Florida style, says Luis.
Short people drug bust by Zero Sum. That's really funny. I like that.
All right, that is Friday Fabulous Florida.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
Thank you for putting that together. That's awesome. I am excited to welcome the amazing Michael Snyder, who comes and goes on the most beautiful of rainbows. Michael Snyder, the Silver Blaster, welcome to the Mark Thompson Show. Hello to you.
Well, hello, Kim, and hello to Albert. And I know it's No King's Weekend, but apparently it's also No Mark's Friday. I guess it's had some technical difficulties. Is that the case?
The power went out in the Mark Thompson estate, and so this is what happens, but the good thing is Albert's here, and so everything is going to run smoothly, and all is well.
Well, and you're here too, and so am I. And it is No King's Weekend, and I encourage you to attend the demonstration in your neighborhood or near to where you live. And by the way, No Kings is not to be confused with the right wing's series of No Queens counter demonstrations protesting drag queen story times. So, No Kings good, No Queens bad. I just want people to get that clear.
Thank you for spelling it out. Much appreciated.
Okay, good. Some quick nightlife notes. I'm in the Bay Area still. I should be back in Los Angeles in a week or so. But tonight at Music City, San Francisco, 1355 Bush at Polk, it's the Star Factory's 1-year anniversary with a series of live performances, including a set by Music City founder and Mark Thompson Show guest Rudy Colombini with his band, the Unauthorized Rolling Stones, at around 9 p.m. I will be there.
Okay.
And tomorrow night, Saturday night in San Francisco, it's the New Wave City 33rd anniversary party at the Cat Club, dedicated to the music and fashion of the 80s. Super popular now. There's a whole retro 80s love thing going on. And this party starts at 9 p.m. with host and DJ and founder Shin Dog and resident DJ Andy T. And that's it for a brief look at some of the Bay Area nightlife that I'll be diving into. Shall we get to the movies, Kim?
Yes, I think so. I saw the first one on your list, and it is, I'll say, Frankenstein. I know you like to pick the ones you're going to do, but I just thought my thoughts on that were, how many Frankenstein movies do we need? Like, is this enough?
Guess what? This is one of the best, and this movie, which is officially Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, but we can just call it Frankenstein, is one of the most faithful adaptations of Mary Shelley's classic Gothic novel, Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, that I've ever seen. Del Toro made the not-so-great Gothic drama Crimson Peak with Mia Wasikowska. It looked great. I wished it was better. And I think the great Mexican filmmaker decided to do his own version of Frankenstein, and he would have source material that would obviously be tried and true. And boy, this is good. It looks spectacular. It's, again, close to the book. It begins in the Arctic and ends in the Arctic, as the book does. So, those of you who are familiar with the Boris Karloff Frankenstein movie, this is a little closer to the original and the original book. And I have to tell you, it is gorgeous to look at. It's broken up into different segments, in one case telling the story from the creator's point of view, that being Victor Frankenstein, a scientist whose dream is to create life. And another perspective is from the creature's point of view. Frankenstein himself is played by Oscar Isaac. The creature is played by Jacob Elordi, of all people, kind of a handsome, hunky actor who maybe people know having that he played Elvis Presley in the Priscilla Presley docudrama, but he's the creature here. Speaking of goth and gothic, Mia Goth, who was so wonderful in the Pearl trilogy, plays the apple of Frankenstein's eye, and not necessarily with feelings reciprocated, Elizabeth Lavenza. Christoph Waltz plays Harlander, who is the guy who finances all of Frankenstein's experiments to bring life from a patchwork body that he's assembled from various corpses. And honestly, it just kicked ass. It looked beautiful, and it told the story in detail, and I was never bored for a second. And it runs around 2 hours plus. And again, boy, does it look good. And there's even, the blind man from the original story. He's played by the great British character actor David Bradley, the blind man who takes in the creature and befriends him. And Bradley is probably best known for his work as the news agent accused of pedophilia in the TV series Broadchurch. But he is a veteran character actor in the UK. Wonderful, wonderful presence. This movie was a treat. And here's the really cool thing about it, or maybe not so cool, because I saw it on the big screen and it was glorious. It is going to be shown this weekend and for the next week or so in limited release, New York, LA, San Francisco, a few other places, and not a lot of theaters. But on November 7th, it comes to Netflix. And so I just hope you have a big old LED screen at home if you're not going to catch it in the movie theater.
Okay. Why are they going to release it to Netflix so soon?
It's a Netflix financed movie, and they're actually saying, well, let's let some people see it in the theater and make it eligible for Oscar consideration by having a theatrical presentation first.
Okay. I guess that makes sense. And it's good for us. I mean, for people who have Netflix, right? Yeah.
Del Toro wrote and produced it. By the way, if you're expecting a scene where Frankenstein sits down with the blind guy, starts smoking a cigar and goes, "Smoke good," you're not going to see that in this movie. That's not happening in this film.
Nothing.
But, I really enjoyed it immensely. Okay, moving on. Black Phone 2. Black Phone 2 is the sequel to The Black Phone, which was a pretty cool and original horror film that I guess was designed to build a franchise. And it was a movie about a serial killer named The Grabber who runs around wearing a devil mask and targets children. And in the first film, a 13-year-old kid named Finn is captured by the Grabber and locked in a basement, and he communicates with kind of the netherworld, or the Grabber calls him via an old-style black phone in the basement, and thus the name of the movie. And Finn, of course, fights back, this 13-year-old kid, and you don't expect there to be a sequel after the climax of The Black Phone, but Black Phone 2 is here, and this is one of those cases where you need to have seen the first film to really get the sequel, which is fairly well made by screenwriter and director Scott Derrickson. He does a good job here. And a 13-year-old Finn is now a few years older. It's 4 years on, and again, played by Mason Thames. And now it's his little sister that gets in trouble with the Grabber. The sister, played by a young actress named Madeline McGraw. Her name is Gwen, and she starts having dreams about the Grabber and about children that he apparently kidnapped and killed years ago at a Christian camp that her mother attended. So this movie actually serves as both a sequel and a prequel as we find out about the family's connection to the Grabber, including the mom. And the Grabber is played for the second time by Ethan Hawke, primarily behind the devil masks. But he's the kid-killing villain of both the first movie and this one. And now he's sort of slashing and burning in a dream realm where if something happens to you in the dream world, of course, it carries over to the real world. Thus, This thing cribs from Nightmare on Elm Street, and the grabber kind of becomes a Freddy Krueger character in a way. In any event, you have to have seen the first one. The second one is well made of sorts, but if you haven't seen The Black Phone, I wouldn't bother with this. And I enjoyed The Black Phone, and this isn't quite as good, but again, if you are interested from having seen the first movie, sure, check it out. It's in theaters across the country.
Just the movie poster is gonna haunt my dreams tonight. This is the kind of movie that freaks the holy hell out of me, and this is why I hate horror movies. Can't do it.
Image is hideous.
Can't even look at it.
Well,
No.
a quick casting note, the terrific actor Damian Bashir didn't think it was beneath him to appear in this movie as the guy who runs the Christian camp, where, by the way, both Finn and Gwen go to try to solve the mystery of their mother's death. And, you get where I'm going.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of going, let's move forward to a movie that also features Ethan Hawke, but actually stars him, and he's not behind a devil mask, and he gives one of the best performances of his career. It's called Blue Moon, and it is a new film from the director and screenwriter Richard Linklater, and you know this guy's work. He most recently did the very funny, effervescent, and visceral comedy based on a real guy, Hitman, which you can watch on Netflix if you want. And he's also the guy behind Boyhood, the Before trilogy, Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, and etc. And he did Waking Life. And all of those movies, Boyhood, the Before trilogy, and Waking Life, featured Ethan Hawke. So he's clearly one of Linklater's favorite actors. And in this movie, Blue Moon, he plays Lorenz Hart, the musical comedy songwriter who teamed up with Richard Rodgers and made a bunch of hit musicals back in the day. And then Rodgers moved on to Oscar Hammerstein as his collaborator. And this, of course, overturned the life of Lorenz Hart. So this is a night in the life of Lorenz Hart, and it's the night when Oklahoma, which was co-written by Rodgers and Hammerstein, has opened to rave reviews, and he's dealing with it at a local theatrical watering hole where everybody goes and gathers, and where the Oklahoma party is going to happen. So there's a lot of, kind of regret and angst, and I loved every moment of this. This is an eloquent script, and it reveals the genius and the tragedy of a legendary American songwriter, and it plays out in this glamorous setting during a very turbulent time, the early, late, I guess it's 40s, 50s, that around then. And again, Linklater has written a beautiful script, and this has been sensitively and intimately directed by him. And actually, you know what? Let me amend that. He didn't write the script here, Roger. A different guy, Robert Kaplow, did. But he did a wonderful job. And the cast is superb, and it's led by Hawke, who really disappears into the character of Lorenz Hart. And again, one of my favorite performances of his career. Margaret Qualley shimmers as a local actress who wants to, she's kind of in with the theatrical crowd. The wonderful and incredibly talented, you've seen him in a bunch of stuff. But Andrew Scott plays Richard Rodgers, who's, of course, conflicted at having split from Lorenz Hart. And Bobby Cannavale plays the bartender, wise, chatty, who is kind of a confessor to Hart as Hart is dealing with all of these turbulent feelings. I love Blue Moon. It is in limited release, and I think it's going to have a great life on streaming as well.
Okay. Limited release. Does that mean, again, with limited cities like New York and San Francisco and LA before it goes to wider audiences?
Yeah, maybe, or maybe it'll go to streaming. I don't know. But right now it's in the cities that usually welcome these early theatrical runs, and it's not available wide, but I highly recommend Blue Moon. I'm kind of a fan of Kelly Reichert, the screenwriter and director who's made some really interesting films. She's done some twists on frontier stories like Meek's Cutoff and First Cow. She's worked a lot with Michelle Williams, who was in a recent film of hers called Showing Up. And now she gets together with an actor on the rise, the very, very talented Josh O'Connor in The Mastermind, which I think was very well received at Cannes. And it's not what you usually get from her. In this case, I mean, she's in modern times, or relatively modern times, maybe about 20, 30 years ago. It's like the 70s, but it's no longer like a frontier tale. In fact, it's set in Massachusetts in the burbs, and a guy who's having financial difficulties and who fancies himself an expert on art decides to steal some valuable paintings. The guy's name is J.B. Mooney. And again, he's played by Josh O'Connor, and he tries to get a few cronies to help him out on the art theft. And things really don't go the way he planned. He thinks he's got it all sussed out, but he really doesn't. But this is very clever, very intimate, very quiet, relatively speaking, especially since it's a heist movie. But when you've got an actor of the quality of Josh O'Connor, and you've got supporting players like Gabby Hoffman and Hope Davis, you've got something going on. And Kelly Reichardt is a smart and very idiosyncratic writer and director. And I thought it may not be her best work, but The Mastermind was very cool and very interesting and worth kind of a studied look. And again, more likely on streaming than in a theater, but it is currently in limited release. It's called The Mastermind.
Okay, that looks interesting. What else you got?
Well, I've got a movie I think you're going to really dote on, or maybe not, because I think your kids are getting a little older. It's called Grow, and it's perfectly timed for October, for harvest season, and for Halloween. Grow is a sweet and charming family film from the UK about a girl named Charlie who is abandoned by her wannabe actress mother and ends up moving in with her all-business aunt, who is a struggling but dedicated farmer in a town that bills itself as the pumpkin capital of the world. So Charlie, who happens to have an otherworldly empathy with plants, wants to find her mother, but that's going to cost money she doesn't have. And meanwhile, her Aunt Dinah's farm is in financial trouble. So Charlie decides to enter the town's annual pumpkin growing competition and use her ability to communicate with plants and grow the biggest pumpkin ever and win, I think, 100,000 pounds as a prize. And of course, there are challenges. Like there's an aristocratic husband and wife who always manage to win the competition by whatever means necessary. I mean, nefarious or otherwise. And there's a local scientist using all sorts of genetic manipulation and super fertilizer to win, and so on. You know, Kim, anybody who knows me knows I'm no fan of squash. And I especially abhor pumpkin spice everything. It's like a plague on our lives this time of year. But I do love Halloween, and I do love jack-o'-lanterns, and I thought this movie was quite nice. And the cast includes Nick Frost of Shaun of the Dead and a bunch of funny British comedies, here playing a hippie type who used to date Charlie's aunt and who knows his way around a pumpkin patch, so to speak. Jeremy Swift of Ted Lasso as the sneaky scientist. And those reliably funny veterans of UK sitcoms and movies, Tim McInerney and Jane Horrocks as the rich weasels, Lord and Lady Smythe Gherkin. And ultimately, it's the kid actor. Her name is Priya Rose Brookwell. She plays Charlie, and Golda Rochevelle plays Aunt Dinah, and they do most of the heavy lifting. And they make Grow kind of a lighter-than-air treat. It's directed by John McPhail. It's in select theaters for now, but it's going to be ideal for all ages, home viewing. It's called Grow.
You'd say this is in theaters, or where is it?
Select theaters. Again, I pray to your theater is selected. But in fact, I think, in a lot of necks of the woods, you're going to have to wait till it gets to streaming. Okay. I don't know how far it's going to expand, but it does seem to be ideal for the streaming market.
All right, then. We will definitely put it on the list in this house.
Oh,
all
cool.
right, Michael, what else is on your movie list for us? Anything else?
Let's wrap this up with the winner of the Palme d'Or at Cannes this year. It was just an accident. Oh my God. This is a smart and exciting thriller with a socio-political bent, and it's from the actual Iranian filmmaker who, by the way, has gotten into all kinds of trouble, Jafar Panahi. And this guy has had to deal with the government coming after him. He's always been critical of the Iranian government, and he's been thrown in jail a couple of times. And he made this film without official filming permission from the Iranian authorities. And by the way, most of the women in this film, if not all of the women, do not wear a hijab, which I believe is counter to Iranian law. But the movie is really, really something else. So a guy is driving with his wife and kid and hits and kills a dog. It's at night. And he's kind of freaked out. And the car has problems. So he pulls into a garage. And in the garage is a political prisoner, or a former political prisoner, who recognizes him and wants to exact revenge for having been locked up. And this causes a whole odyssey as one guy is trying to chase down the other. And all these various and sundry characters enter into things. There's a book salesman, a wedding photographer, and a bride and a groom. And they're all stuck all day and all night in this van because they've captured and locked up this former intelligence officer. And it was really something else. Really, really smart and really, really exciting. And it's also an investigation into the morality of revenge, of taking a life. All of these things are folded into it. And again, amazing that he made this in Iran against the wishes, one would presume, of the government and the officials that have previously detained him for his overt political stance. Again, it's called, and I love the title, It Was Just an Accident.
And I'm assuming this one has subtitles?
It does have subtitles, and it is, again, in select theaters. I apologize. It's in select theaters. Not everyone will get to see it with ease.
All right. Well, that's okay. What about streaming? What can I see with ease?
I would highly recommend the movie that our friend Tim Sika already discussed on the After Party Live, John Candy, I Like Me. And it is just a sweet, funny, heartbreaking docudrama. No, it's not even that. It's a documentary, and it talks to some of Candy's peers and friends, including members of the SCTV troupe, and that would be Martin Short and Dave Thomas, Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy. It speaks to Tom Hanks, who obviously knew the man. It's a lovely, lovely movie, and you'll see what a wonderful performer and what a funny guy and what a kind person John Candy was. And he had demons, but this is not one of those like John Belushi drinks himself to death things. This guy loved life, wanted to live, wasn't self-destructive in an overt way, but had some issues among them with his weight and the way people perceived of him, with the nature of his career. But it's pretty terrific. It's available on Amazon Prime. Again, it's called John Candy, I Like Me.
You get a lot of support for that. Eileen's saying, yep, I Like Me is so good. So in the chat, they're agreeing with you. Let's do the recap. And the first movie you had for us is Frankenstein. Of this movie, you said, boy, this is good. You said this movie is closer to the original book. It is gorgeous to look at. You said this movie kicked ass. You were never bored. You said it's about 2 hours as well. So that's saying something. And that it's in limited release and comes to Netflix on November 7th. So we have that to look forward to. Of Black Phone 2, you said you got to see Black Phone 1 in order to see Black Phone 2. You got to see the original first. Ooh, there's that picture again. You said the movie's well made, that 2 isn't as good as the first one, but you didn't not enjoy this movie.
No, it was okay. I just felt like it was diminished by how interesting and exciting the original movie was. And again, if you didn't see that first film, why are you even thinking about seeing this?
Blue Moon, you loved every moment. You said the script is eloquent, the setting glamorous, Hawk is great. The directing is great. You really love this one. You said it's in limited release and you highly recommend Blue Moon.
Yeah, and Kim, I want to point out that the movie pretty much takes place in this swanky bar. That's it. So it's not like it's all over, Manhattan during the 40s, but it is so cool.
The Mastermind. You said this is a very cool and a very interesting movie. It was well received at Cannes. It's in limited release, and you said, yeah, it's a cool movie. Do you recommend The Mastermind? It was just an accident. You called it a smart, exciting thriller. You said this movie is really something else. It was just an accident. You said as an investigation into the morality of revenge and murder. It was made in Iran, which was quite a feat. It's in select theaters, and you really liked It Was Just an Accident. And Grow, lastly, you said it was quite nice. A great cast, lighter than air treat, you called it, ideal for all ages, also in select theaters. And lastly, you said on TV, streaming, this documentary called John Candy, I Like Me. You recommend this one as well. So
I do. And for those who are fans, The Diplomat season 3 started on Netflix yesterday. So get on board.
Now I know what's happening tonight. Excellent. I love that show. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome, Kim.
Michael Snyder, always lovely to hang out with you, and thank you for bringing us all the good stuff.
Well, you're very welcome, and we're excited. Things are treacherous in 49er land, but hope springs eternal. Sunday Night Football, they face the Falcons here in the Bay Area at Levi Stadium. I will be rooting for the Scarlet and Gold. I don't know about you, but go Niners, and I'll be back with you and Mark hopefully next Friday.
Let's hope the power comes back on. He comes and goes. Bye-bye. Awesome. Thank you. So long. Let's go through some of the comments we have today. Jim Slayton throwing in a 5. Loma Prieta Quake anniversary, driving from Emeryville to Sunnyvale. I crossed the Cypress an hour before it went down. Ooh, wow. Always be ready, Bay Area. Jim Slayton with a 5. Thank you for reminding us of the anniversary of the Loma Prieta earthquake. I appreciate that. Didn't get to do news today, or we would have talked about it. Harry Magnan, $10 at the Red Jack Saloon. A dim and low where the whiskey and the stories would flow. A martini's grace met a kamikaze's pace, and the night's revelry started to grow. I love it.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
Alcohol, poetry, and $10. Thank you, Harry Magnan. Appreciate that. With Our Eyes Rise, a 5. Peaceful resist is key. Search Mount Kenya, Mount Zion, the hidden Ark of the Covenant, and join us daily for 9 seconds facing Mount Kenya for global peace. Thank you for the contribution and for the comment. Another one from Vilma with 5. If the best and brightest if best and brightest leave the Pentagon, the United States military becomes very vulnerable, says Vilma. Jim Eaton with another 5. Starvation will come to the United States with food rotting in the fields because there is no one to harvest the crops. Richard Delamater with a couple says the Bill Black attack. Yeah, he was great, right? Louise coming in for 5. If I stopped listening to the mouthpiece Barbie long ago, she's an idiot puppet, incapable of independent thought or thoughtful commentary, and she adds nothing. Likely speaking of Caroline Levitt. And also Louise with a 5. Mo, aka Dart Gable. I go way back to the Jim Rome show with you. Such a pleasure to get your thoughtful takes here. Welcome, sir. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the contributions. Find us at themarkthompsonshow.com. Please get your pictures taken if you go to the No Kings rally with your Mark merch at getmarkmerch.com.
For the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
And please send us the pictures. We'll run them on Monday. Thank you for being here. Love you, Albert. Love you, Mark. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.